Have you ever heard of a business almost failing because it was just too successful? Yeah, it sounds completely backwards, but it happens all the time. Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating case study of a packaging company that hit a massive wall, not from a lack of customers, but from an explosion of them. So, if you're an entrepreneur who's scaling up and feeling those growing pains, this one's for you. Let's break down how they turned total chaos into cold, hard cash. Okay, so first, let's set the scene. This corrugated box factory was, well, they were on an absolute roll. Over the last 5 years, their sales shot up by an incredible 58%. We're talking about 60 million baht a year. That's nearly 2 million US dollars in annual revenue. I mean, by any traditional metric, this company was absolutely crushing it. Which, of course, brings us to the big question. If your order books are full and the money is pouring in, what could possibly be the problem? Well, the answer is a trap that so many growing businesses fall right into. And for this company, it was all happening right there on their factory floor. The simple truth is, the factory was literally drowning in its own success. The production strategy that worked perfectly when they were a smaller company was now their biggest enemy. The very system that was supposed to make them efficient was now causing chaos, bottlenecks, and just massive hidden costs as they tried to scale up. So, the root of the problem was their core philosophy, something called a push production system. And the name really says it all. The goal was to constantly push out as much product as humanly possible, keeping the machines running 24/7. It seems logical, right? Keep busy, make more stuff. But let's see where that logic actually took them. So the whole idea behind the push system was to lower the cost of each individual box by producing these huge batches. But the results, they were disastrous. First, they completely ran out of factory space. Then all their cash got tied up in inventory they couldn't even sell yet. And this created a vicious cycle. They'd have to pay a fortune in overtime to rush the actual urgent orders, all while their staff wasted precious time just searching for materials in the chaos. I mean, just try to imagine the daily reality here. The entire factory floor is clogged with pallets of boxes for orders that aren't due for weeks. But suddenly, a customer needs their shipment tomorrow. The problem? There is literally no physical space left to produce that urgent order. They were tripping over future money while losing today's business. It was a mess. So this crisis, it forced a complete change in their thinking. They had to ditch the old way and embrace a totally new mindset. They moved from a push system to its exact opposite, the pull system. This is a cornerstone of lean manufacturing, and for them, it completely changed the game. So what is a pull system? It's actually beautifully simple. Instead of making things based on some guess or forecast, you only make things based on actual real-time customer demand. Nothing gets produced until the next stage in the process, whether that's the next machine or the delivery truck is ready for it and pulls it forward. Here's the difference in a nutshell. The old way, the push system, basically says, let's make as much as we possibly can just to keep the machines busy. The new way, the pull system, says, let's make only what's needed right when it's needed. So the trigger for production completely shifts from a vague forecast to a hard and fast customer delivery date. The key takeaway here is the customer is now running the factory. Now, this wasn't just some big idea they talked about in a meeting. They put this new pull mindset into action with 3 very specific, very practical steps. This is the real how-to part of the story. So, step 1. It all started with flipping their planning process on its head. They began scheduling everything backwards from the customer's delivery date. Step 2, they redesigned the physical workflow. They brought in quick machine setup techniques. It's a method called SMED, which made even smaller batches efficient. And they created clear zones for everything so there was no more searching. And the final piece of the puzzle, step 3, was getting sales and production on the same team. The sales team's new job wasn't just to sell boxes, but to sell them in a way that created a smooth, predictable rhythm for the whole factory. Okay, so they changed their entire process from the ground up. But did it work? Well, the impact wasn't just on their operations. It was immediate, and it hit the bottom line in a huge, huge way. First off, they unlocked a massive amount of cash. We're talking 5 million baht freed up almost instantly, just by getting rid of all the finished goods that were sitting around collecting dust. And that single move, it saved them 350,000 baht every single year in financing costs alone. That is pure profit, dropping straight to the bottom line.
And then, because the planning was so much smoother and less chaotic, they cut their crazy overtime bill in half. That's another 150,000 baht saved, year after year. And this might be the most amazing part. By just clearing out all that unnecessary clutter, they reclaimed 20% of their factory floor space. They got a bigger factory without building a single new wall. Incredible.
This before and after table really just puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? Inventory value plummeted from over 13 million baht down to 8 million. The entire focus shifted from making for stock to making to order. Overtime costs were sliced in half. And their workspace? It went from being a cluttered storage unit to a clear, efficient production floor. It was a total transformation.
So look, this case study is such a powerful lesson. It shows that having the right process is just as important as having a great product or a killer sales team. And that brings us back to you. Take a hard look at your own operations. Is your growth creating more chaos than profit? Are you constantly fighting fires, paying for rush orders, feeling like you're just running out of space and cash? If any of that sounds familiar, maybe your business is being pushed into a corner by an outdated system. And maybe, just like this factory, the real solution isn't to push harder, but to start letting your customers pull you forward.